Well, my name is Steve Hinton, and Rod got us to rebuild the Lockheed Constellation, so I was kind of one of the members of the project and kind of kept it on track. And we just did a successful flight, so we're really excited about it. It's been a 7-year project, so we're really proud of it.
Awesome. Tell me about those 7 years. What was it like going through that process and just kind of getting it to here?
Well, yeah, we had a really good crew here at the Fighter Rebuilders, and we all teamed together, and it's an exciting project. And Rod Lewis has such a great collection of planes, and we know he'll use this airplane correctly. And
yeah.
But the project's all about, there's so many people involved with it. I mean, everything from engines getting overhauled by Mike Nixon, and propellers coming from somewhere else, and all the work it takes to clean it up, and parts aren't even hardly available for the Constellation. And
right.
That's why it takes so long to do this stuff.
So tell me a little bit about going through the flight today. What was it like taking off? How did she settle in? Talk me through the second y'all fired up those engines and got up in the air.
Well, we've run it, taxied it, and all that's kind of normal procedures. We have checklists, and Jeff is our new flight engineer, and we haven't flown with Jeff very much, so we're feeling each other out and how we do things. But Jeff's got a lot more experience in these kind of planes than Stuart and I do. But the excitement, rolling down the runway on takeoff, that's pretty exciting. After we had this thing all apart. We've had the landing gear out of it. We've had the outer wings off, had the tail off. All the engines have been off. We've rewired it, changed all the hydraulic lines. So to get it all come together and finally airborne, gear up, put the handle up, and the gear goes up, and you're looking at all the engine instruments. Everything's just purring away nicely. That's really exciting, And well, I'm riding co-pilot on this flight, and so my job is crew coordination. I'm holding the yoke while he's running the steering and the throttles, and then we transition. He grabs the yoke, and then I'm following with the throttles in a sense, keeping an eye on what's going on. And calling out speeds. And Stuart's flown a lot of big 4-engine airplanes before. I don't have a lot of 4-engine experience, and he's the man for the job. We're pretty light anyway. We're almost 50,000 pounds lighter than gross weight. And you could see how it landed short and how it took off real short. But it's a beautiful plane, and here again we want to thank the foundation, Rod's Foundation, for giving us the opportunity to put it together.
My name is Jeff Weitzel. I'm officially the luckiest guy on Earth because I just got to fly flight engineer again on the Lockheed Constellation, which was the first job I had when I was about 17 years old, which was about 150 years ago or so. And to be back in the Connie again is a real treat, and especially this example of the airplane is stunning. Honored, privileged, pinching myself, can't believe it. And what an effort on the part of our crew. All the folks who worked on this airplane, my hat's off. They did a wonderful job, and I'm a Johnny-come-lately, and I got to taste the icing, and I'm forever in their debt.
What does it feel like being here today and getting to watch your baby take off?
It was amazing just seeing it 8.5 years ago take off from Arizona.
Yeah.
And it was a hell of an event. 8 months to get it prepped so we could even take off.
Mm-hmm.
And then all this time outside, and then it got in the hangar a couple of years ago. And to see it fly today, it's amazing. It is amazing. Yeah, I don't have any words to describe it.
Yeah.
So it's the guys put their hearts in this.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Steve and his crew, Pete, all the guys that were here working on this thing all these years, they put their hearts in it. So I'm just so happy that this day has come, actually. So
yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know whether it would. It really felt right when we got in and started all 4 engines and did the run up, and everything checked out perfect. First time we were able to check the controls. Mm-hmm. It all worked perfectly. The servos were replaced, so everything seemed to fall into place, and then we all decided it's time. Well, first, General MacArthur, U.S. Air Force. So that's where it started, and then of course Lockheed. Before that, even. And I think I was really enamored with this airplane because of the history and then the condition it was in, and where we started with it.
So talk me through that. What was the reason? Why this? Why Connie?
I think we've done so many other aircraft. I've done one Mosquito, working on another Mosquito now with a partner, and we've done the B-25, the A-20. The A-20 was actually done here in Chino, and just wanted something unique. And I like one-of-a-kind stuff, or one or two of a kind, So this was rare. So we felt like, let's just do something cool where we can all fly it, and we can all get in with our families and enjoy a warbird. So that's kind of the thing. And I just wanted to do something different, and I wanted to have an aircraft that really showed the big stuff during World War II and the Korean War, especially, and all the way to the 60s. So this one does it.
What to say? Now that it's all said and done, did it come to fruition the way that you anticipated it? Is it grander? Is it still coming together?
It actually looks better than I thought it would. Yeah, it actually looks better. Yeah, and we spent a lot of time with the paint job, the polish. They came to me with a budget for polishing, and I said, you know what, it's high as hell, but man, I want it polished. So I'm the one that they wanted to paint it. All the guys wanted to paint it, and I said, no. I wanted an airplane like that one over there, but I couldn't polish the whole damn thing. Yeah. But there's a lot to this about honoring those who flew these airplanes, and honoring the guys who actually used them during the war as transports. And then this aircraft has special history with NASA. Not only General MacArthur history. This was one of the aircraft that was up in the air when Apollo spacecraft were flying, and this provided the communications as they went around the orbits. So this has a second life to it. It's very cool.
Push the top. Airbus Constellation is holding at 3.5 to the northeast.
How far are you northeast, Constellation?
We're out here
8 miles.
at 8 miles.
Here we come.
Here we come. You want us to make a flyby?
Yeah, we're going to do one flyby and go land, and wind's 190 at Niner. Can you land on 3.6?
Yeah. That will take 3.6. We're heading inbound. Looking like a 10-knot tailwind.
It's a long runway.
Yeah, don't go over 250 though, okay?
But if y'all want to land the other way, I will.
Yeah, you're flying this thing. Well, you can request it if you want in the wind.
Attention all, watch your mics, folks. Watch them.
There you go.
Super Connie, how do you hear me now?
Connie's on a long right base for runway 36.
Head direct to the runway, sir. Direct to the runway.
We are. Heading that way.
Well, we got something else.
You want to pull some power out?
Yep, I'm going to pull some power back.
Let's pull back to 25 inches for now. So what are you going to do after this? Just turn to the downwind?
I'm going to turn to the right and stay away up from the...
and Connie, after this flyby, will be a right turn to the downwind for full stop.
Right turn to downwind, full stop, runway 36.
We're on base right now.
Okay, all the Corsairs hold short of runway 36. We got the Super Connie inbound.
Well, it ain't a super, but it's pretty super to us. Super duper.
Attention, all Corsairs hold short of the runway.
I tell you what, why don't we just make this pass, turn out to the right, come back around, and land south, let the Corsairs go?
Yeah. And Constellation, you'd like us to make a pass, go to the right, let the Corsairs take off, and then we'll land to the south?
Sir, we have a program with them. I need you to make a right downwind and land as soon as you can on 36.
Okay.
All right, sir, we'll comply.
You're going to have to make a 180 on runway 36 to come back down to Papa 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Lining up good, looking good. Yeehaw.
Corsairs, taxi runway 18, hold short.
Taxi 18, hold short, boss.
Watch the speed. You out?
Watch the speed.
I got it.
Don't go to 270.
I'm 250 right now.
Yeah.
Nice pass. Turn, clear land, runway 36.
Okay.
Tony's clear to land 36. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, if you can tell me your emergency brake pressure, I'll do the rest.
Is that you, Steve?
18. Yes, sir. 1800.
Okay. Parking brakes are off.
Parking brake is off.
Let's back her down there to about 25 inches.
25,
Less than that. Slow down.
JT, I'm going to land a Super Connie on runway 36, 180 on runway 18, back that to Papa 2.
You're not going to slow down unless you pull fire back.
Okay, let's go back to 22.
coming.
It is, because I'm going to throw the fucking gear out here.
Super Connie's going to land on runway 36, do a 180 on the runway back down to Papa 2.
Then 170 for flaps.
Okay, sounds great.
145 per gear.
Give me flaps.
Did you want to do one?
No, Steve's good at that.
Okay.
My fellow legacy guy. Same ballpark.
Landing gear down.
Gear handle is down.
And go to approach flap, please.
Approach flap selected. Nose gear. Bang, bang. Main gear down, lock. Pressure's up.
Yeehaw.
Looking good, you guys. The right base is a good turn. Just point, keep the speed, the flap speed there.
Landing gear.
Gear's down, locked.
Check to your 3 greens.
Right.
Hydraulic pressure quantities checked. Mixtures are rich.
All right, I got the throttles.
Your throttles. And one more time, an emergency brake hydraulic pressure,
Flaps to
please.
go.
Yeah.
Pressure's
Let's go
up.
full flap.
Flap handle is full, and flaps are going down.
We got plenty of drag.
Base leg, you got it. Now, no pressure here, boss. You know, I mean, nobody's watching. You just sneak right in.
I know.
Right on the number.
500.
Bark the dog.
Beep, 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 beep. I think I'll arm the reverse just in case something's weird. Okay, is that what you guys?
Yep.
Reverse is armed.
105 knots.
110 knots up here. You're looking good.
Give me a little horsepower.
What would you like?
Give me about 25.
You're at 30 now.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah, you're right there. Perfect. Flare, flare. Got it.
All right. Beautiful.
Hold the nose, hold the nose.
I got it. Power off. I got the steering.
Woohoo!
I think you can make Papa 2 midfield here.
Not this. I ain't gonna make this one. I may make the next one.
On Papa 2 midfield.
Where's Papa 2? Right up here. I hate
You want us to do 180 and come back?
Nope, you're going to make a left turn. The next taxiway up here to your left to be perfect.
Oh, it's straight in.
Earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice job.
Wide turn here, Stuart.
I know, but I don't like hitting these brakes like this, guys.
JT, you can line up a wait when you're ready. He's turning left to Papa 2.
Okay, line up Legacy. Look at that. Awesome.
Anytime on the door.
Flaps up, clean up.
Let's make the turn here. I'll watch the pressure while I'm doing this. I'm watching it. Pressure's good. Looking for ground support here.
I'm looking for air.
Yeah.
Anytime on the door, JD.
Corsairs, JT, you have the airspace, you have the runway. You call it.
I'm looking at he's got it right here.
Sir.
That's my girl.
Wow, fantastic. Man, you did a great job.
We're all at it. Yeah.
Are we putting the collared shirts on?
Yeah, we can.
Watch the props unwind too.
Okay, we're stopped. I'm going to hold the brakes till I get a chalk sign. Guys,
Shutting down on your command.
congratulations. Y'all did it. And shut them down.
1 and 4.
Congratulations, man. Thank you.
Hello everybody, we're here at Oshkosh 2023 and I'm standing in front of the Lockheed Constellation known as Bataan. It was a C-121A that had been used as a cargo plane for the Air Force originally, and then it was one of 6 that they modified as a VC-121. And this particular one, a very historic airplane, was General Douglas MacArthur's airplane. It became part of a pool of VC-121s used with generals and dignitaries. And you know, if you look at it now, and it's a gorgeous airplane, but it was like from outer space back in those days, if you can imagine. You know, it was as fast as any airplane flying in the 40s, and long range. You know, it's got a 16, 17-hour range, 250 miles an hour. It's quite an airplane. What does it take to get to Oshkosh? Well, I tell you, this whole project started with the Legends Foundation 8 years ago, and the airplane hadn't flown in 20 years, and we did a complete restoration on the airframe. Completely new engines, rewired, went through the whole thing, and we've just been flying it now maybe 6 weeks. Our trip to Oshkosh started out of Chino, California. Yeah, we took off out of there, went 6 hours, 13 minutes non-stop to Madison, Wisconsin. And we stopped there so we could stage ourselves for a Monday arrival. But we had an oil leak on number 3 that ended up costing us 2 cylinders to repair. But here we are. Stu Dawson was left seat on this trip. We trade seats every time, but Captain Stu was, we came in, did our low approach, 249 knots, and pulled up to the downwind, throttled back to about 25 inches on the downwind. First notch of flaps, 170 knots, gear at 145, turn base, you know, go through the checklist, 120 on short final full flaps, and then over the fence about 100 knots, and Stu just made a perfect little chirp little landing, and we didn't reverse, didn't need it. We did a little downwind, but still, the airplane's pretty light. It's at least 40,000 pounds under gross weight, and it's got a big wing and very controllable, real easy to fly. Beautiful machine, very, very, very complex for its era, but that was the state of the art.
Freakout 3713, contact ground.
Sorry.
And November Alpha is on the roll.
Roger. 4 highlights, here we go.
Let's go.
5 throttles.
You got them.
Power's coming up.
And just don't worry about that one at all.
Badger 1 traffic.
Power set.
Badger 1
All
traffic,
set.
Departure roll, wind 17011, runway 18, clear to land, all advised on the cable.
Badger 1 traffic in sight, copy. Clear land runway 18.
Roger, right landing gear up.
A little funny story, we were at the end of the runway, cleared for takeoff. We shoved the throttles up to takeoff power and kind of looked at each other. The thing really accelerated. We were airborne in 1,500 feet practically. Surprising, but we were more, I think we were like 52,000 pounds lighter than gross weight. So it's actually, it climbs out very well, and It climbs out at 1,500 foot a minute at that weight. It just had a reduced climb power. So we were very surprised. You know, we're used to flying, you know, the big 4-engine airplanes are usually big, heavy, lumbering, slow climbing things. Well, this thing at the weights we're flying is pretty sporty. It's fun to fly. Okay, you can see we just entered the big cargo door. This airplane it was built like this. And the interior right now is just something that was put together to accommodate the trip to Oshkosh. But the plan is that the foundation has designed an executive interior, and it'll be, they have most of the parts, made already up in Aero Metals, up in Portland area. And it'll be a very plush environment here. You know, it'll be leather and conference room up ahead. Yeah, what you see here, like I say, was just done by the foundation just so it could get us to Oshkosh. But you can see the quality of what's been built.
Yeah, these are the back seats that are going back in. But there'll be 24 total seats, 24 total places. There'll be a bar somewhere here in the conference room. I think the conference room is here.
I think it is partially into that.
Oh,
yeah.
That's galley.
Yeah.
That's actually galley. That's going to be a restroom. There's a conference table here, a bar back here, and then the rest is seated. Of that quality right there.
This is where it all happens up here.
Up here, and then we got a lot of automation here for just safety issues. This is a camera system that will show gear, engines, everything we need to be looking at. Steve, you probably know more about it.
Yeah, we have cameras around the outside of the plane, and we can select it here. And we also have the ability in the cockpit to select.
Go ahead and jump. Well, now this is where it all happens. So you got a captain, you got a pilot, you got a co-pilot, you got an engineer.
And you can see the airplane's built for the engineer. He has most of the responsibility. Well, we work as a crew, and like I say, we trade legs. You know, Stu and I both fly. But as a co-pilot, you know, we're watching what's going on and try to make sure we're crew coordinated. But the function I have, for instance, is I could pump the landing gear down if it needed to go down in emergency, or if we lose hydraulics, I could pump the brakes up, and just follow in conversation. You know, sometimes it takes two to do things. We had early on, we were working on some landing gear issues, and it takes three guys, Jeff, and all of us are talking about what we think might be the issue, and it's a big airplane. Just take your time and talk about it. You know, or you ask what it's going to take. We did a budget, and it was $46,000 in fuel and oil to get here and back for Oshkosh. So that's a pretty big commitment, and people should maybe don't know that, but a lot of respect to Rod and the foundation for pulling through on this, and to me it's been one of the, like I say, we've done a lot of projects through the years. This one's been the most challenging by a lot, and equally as rewarding. And we got a lot of people involved. We had some structural engineers involved to figure out how to do things correctly, and we hired a lot of outside help. It's massive, a massive project, and it was really fun when we started turning the switches on and running the hydraulics and running the engines, and like I say, quite a thrill running down the runway the first time too.
But we're, just being here, we've had many people come up to us and said, "Hey, I'm type rated in Connie's," and tell us stories about this particular airplane we've never heard of. So that's another reason to come to Oshkosh, because if we hadn't brought it here, we wouldn't hear all the history that we don't know.
Yeah. I have to tell you though, Rod, a lot of times I'll ask a specific question like that I might need some help with, and they go, I don't know.
The foundation means my family, my kids especially, and I have two pilots, two daughters that are women pilots that I want to be able to continue this legacy. They're very interested, one especially that lives in San Antonio. So there'd be no way for them to be able to do this without me funding, how to keep these aircraft in the air after. I'm not here or don't want to fly them anymore. So I think it was just to keep this going. You know, to keep there's some very unique airplanes. I have a lot of one-of-a-kind airplanes, and I just don't want that to disappear. And I'm sure someday it's going to be hard to get these airplanes in the air. It's going to be hard to find people, the young pilots that want to fly these things. You know, they're getting up there in age. So I think mostly just to try to keep this going as long as we can to educate those who don't know about this history. I've been involved in some very unique flying activities, and it's a great thing to keep preserved. We're frustrated fighter pilots is probably what we are, those of us who weren't in the military like I wasn't, but I grew up as an Air Force brat, and I watched my dad do all these cool things and be in all these cool places and fly these incredible airplanes. And he went into the F-100 series program and flew 100 series airplanes. So, and he was a demo pilot, so I got to see some really, really cool stuff growing up. So that's probably my motivation is my dad, you know.
Well, you ask why do they always call on me? They don't always call on me. We've got experience, you know, we've been doing this for a living. You know, I've been flying warbirds since the 70s. This is my 50th year at Oshkosh. And we've got an experienced crew and a good relationship. This is our 43rd airplane that Fighter Rebuilders has done since 1980. And we're really proud of it. And it's a challenge. Everything's a challenge. We have a great relationship with our customers and our friends, and get a lot of help from the warbird industry. And you know, just being here in Oshkosh, you know, people can show off their wares here. It's a great place to connect with people. You know, Fighter Rebuilders has been my line of income for 45 years anyway. So, you know, the Planes of Fame is where my heart is, but I mean, we have to earn a living, and we also need to keep support of the museum, so we keep a full-time crew working on other projects and available for the museum when they need it. But you know, my son Steven has grown up, and he's the 2.0 version. He's doing a great job. He's got a lot of projects in line, and he's a perfectionist, and he'll up the standard and he'll up the quality of what's going on. I have to admit, back in the 80s, this was a lot easier than it was in the 90s, and you know, which is a lot easier than it was in the 21s. But now we're, you know, parts are running out. The airplanes are getting older, and we have a new generation of people, and we've also lost a huge number of people that we had access to that had this experience. Well, this year, coming to Oshkosh, we were invited to partake in the Warbirds in Review, and unfortunately the airplane was still in Madison. We missed that, but it means an awful lot when people have interest in airplanes like this. And Connie and the group did such a great job as far as we're concerned. We had a lot of interest in the crowd, and it was fun to tell our part of the story. You know, it's a very historic airplane. Imagine what kind of deals maybe got done in the back of this airplane. You know, it spent a lot of time out in the eastern part of the world there, and a lot of those people had never seen anything like this before. You know, something from the United States this big and shiny, it made a big impression. Just kind of interesting. There's probably a lot of stories we don't know about that happened in this thing.
My name is Connie Bolin. I'm the founder of Warbirds in Review, and we are doing this special Warbirds in Review this evening because we have some very special guests. The Constellation Bataan is a really exciting project, and we are very, very pleased that Rod Lewis and the team who have restored that airplane are bringing it here. It should be here, planned to be here tomorrow. So you can look forward to seeing that arrival. But this evening, we're going to have an opportunity to talk with Rod Lewis, Steve Hinton, and Stu Dawson, who are the key people in this airplane's restoration and flying it and preserving the history. Tonight, also, I mentioned the reception behind us. Breitling Watches have generously donated this beautiful watch to Warwards in Review. We will be having a raffle for this watch, which we operate Warwards in Review strictly on donations. So this watch will be a big part of supporting our program next year. And in supporting our program, I have to mention Scott's Miracle Grow Company is our sustaining sponsor. Ron and Diane Fagan, who happen to be sitting over here right behind me, I saw them just a little earlier. Ron and Diane provided us with this building that allows us the production room and the green room. And now I'd like for you to take just a couple of minutes to see the really, really interesting and beautiful advertisement for Breitling and this watch that they have donated to us. So if you'll direct your attention to the Jumbotron. As we key up our video for our introduction video, I will recognize our Sleeping Dog Productions air-to-air TV crew and invite our guests to come out. We have an extremely talented production crew. Scott Guyat leads that team. Kyle Guyat does all the work taking care of everybody. Gentlemen, if you'd like to come out here, you can see the video screen, the Jumbotron here, and see the great work of Scott Guyat as we watch the introduction for the Constellation Bataan.
Down at Boeing Plaza tonight, there is a very rare and significant aircraft. It is the Lockheed C-121A Constellation, serial number 48613, known as Bataan. In 1948, the U.S. Air Force ordered 10 Lockheed Model L-749 aircraft, the graceful Constellation airliner. They were delivered in 1948 and 1949 to Westover Air Force Base and the Atlantic Division of the Military Air Transport Command, MATS for short. Their Air Force designation was C-121A. One of the first major international crises of the Cold War began on June 24, 1948, when the Soviets closed all road, rail, and canal access to the parts of Berlin, Germany that were controlled by the Western Allies. The Berlin blockade left the people of West Berlin without their normal supplies of food, fuel, medicines, and other necessities. In response, the Western Allies organized the Berlin Airlift. Round-the-clock flights from England and the United States brought essential supplies to the people of West Berlin. The Lockheed Constellations, with their speed and long range, were ideal for moving supplies from the U.S. to Britain and to Germany during the Berlin Airlift. The Air Force's 8 C-121As, also known as Connies, made continuous crossings of the Atlantic Ocean, flying over 5 million miles to help deliver relief to West Berlin. When the airlift ended, the Connies were converted from cargo planes to high-speed VIP transports for the U.S. Air Force. In 1950, during the Korean War, Connie No. 613 became the flying command post of General Douglas MacArthur, who was at the time Supreme Commander of Allied powers in Korea. MacArthur named his constellation Bataan after the Philippine Peninsula, known for the infamous Bataan Death March of 1942, when 75,000 American and Filipino prisoners of war were brutally force-marched more than 60 miles to captivity in POW camps. Subjected by Imperial Japanese troops to hunger, thirst, beatings, torture, and wanton killing, more than 5,000 Filipinos and 500 Americans died or were killed during the 8 days of the march. Many more would die in the POW camps of torture, starvation, or disease. In Korea, General MacArthur made 17 flights over the battlefields in his Connie, and she carried him to Wake Island for a meeting with U.S. President Harry Truman. On April 16, 1951, a fateful day for MacArthur, the Connie Bataan carried the general from Korea to Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland, where President Truman relieved him of his command. MacArthur then flew home to San Francisco, his last flight in the Connie. C-121A Bataan was assigned to the Pacific Air Command based in Hawaii. Her passengers included Generals Matthew Ridgway, Mark Clark, and Curtis LeMay, and South Korean President Syngman Rhee. In 1953, Bataan carried newly elected U.S. President Dwight Eisenhower and Vice President Richard Nixon on an inspection tour of Korea. All C-121s, including Bataan, were removed from Air Force roles in 1966 and sent to the boneyard at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson, Arizona. Several were stripped of military gear and sold to civilian operators in Canada for use as firebombers and bug sprayers. 3 Connies, including No. 613 Bataan, were assigned to NASA for use during the Apollo space program. When the Apollo space program ended, NASA 422 was acquired by the Army Aviation Museum at Fort Rucker in Alabama and put on display out in the open, and there she sat for 20 years. Officials at Fort Rucker considered scrapping Bataan in 1993 until Ed Maloney, founder of the Planes of Fame Museum in Chino, California, offered to take possession of her. "That's a historic airplane," he told skeptical Steve Hinton, president of Planes of Fame. "We've got to find a way to do it." Planes of Fame traded a helicopter for the Connie, made her airworthy with help from Lockheed, repainted her in General MacArthur's colors, and took her on the airshow circuit. But flying her was costly, and after 1 year on the circuit, Bataan was grounded once again, perhaps permanently. Enter Rod Lewis, well-known aircraft collector and owner of Lewis Air Legends and the Air Legends Foundation. Lewis purchased Bataan in 2015 and hired Steve Hinton's Fighter Rebuilders Company to undertake Bataan's complete restoration. Finding parts wasn't easy, and few people knew anything about the 1950s-era airliner. Making Bataan flyable again was, said Hinton, like restoring 10 or 15 Mustangs. But despite the difficulties, Bataan once again took to the air on June 20th of this year. just in time for the trip to Oshkosh. She proudly wears the colors of General MacArthur's transport and will soon be given an all-new, historically correct interior. Lewis plans to fly Bataan to events around the U.S. and maybe Europe and beyond, so Bataan will be seen and appreciated by thousands thanks to Ed Maloney's vision to save her from scrappers and Rod Lewis's dream to bring this beautiful and historic airplane back to life.
Okay, now you've heard the recorded history of Bataan. So, gentlemen, Rod, would you join me here, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Which seat are we in?
How about this one right here for you,
Okay.
Rod?
Okay. Sounds good.
Does that put you in, or would you rather be here in the shade?
No.
Okay.
I'm fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Steve, if you'll sit next to Rod, and we'll put Stuart on the end.
Okay.
That's a good place for you, isn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to be here with these three gentlemen, Rod Lewis, Steve Hinton, and Stuart Dawson. They represent the warbird community and the professionals, the dedicated people who have done so much for all of the warbird aircraft, and now we have this Bataan. So, Rod, tell me, what possessed you to think that you wanted to restore something of this major undertaking?
You know, Connie, I'm honored here, first of all, to be here with my teammates to represent, you know, our airplane that's supposed to be here, should be here tomorrow, and your namesake. But I think I asked that question many times, actually. What possessed me to do this? I think it started probably in 2012. Steve and I made a trip over to the Ukraine, and we were looking for a large project. And in this case, it was a Tu-95 Bear. And we went over there, checked it out. It was nothing like we were told. Hadn't been flown in 10 years. We were told it was started up every 3 months. And so we got pretty discouraged after that, came home, and I asked Steve, what can we do that's a big project that we can enjoy as we get older and we can fly as a crew? And Steve came up with an idea that at his museum in Arizona that they had a Connie. So it just started from there, and Steve, you can pick it up and explain a little more.
That is a big project. And let me do just a little production here. If you guys would like to be in the shade, you could move your chairs up just a little bit if you'd like, and you'll be in the shadow of this beautiful Corsair that also happens to belong to Rod Lewis. But that just keeps you guys out of the sun a little bit. So
that makes a difference.
Much better, huh?
You okay?
Okay. Well, Rod's just going to leave you guys over there completely. So, okay. So, Steve. Okay. So, Steve, tell us about the project. The beginning with Ed Maloney, with his vision, was amazing.
Well, it's kind of a funny story. You know, for the air race game, we're friends with Wiley Sanders Group out of Troy, Alabama there. And one day I got a phone call at the shop that from his guys said, you know what, Fort Rucker has this Constellation sitting there, and you know, it's probably available if you guys want it. You know, you're a museum and all, and we know you. And so I said, no, I don't think so. I mean, we you know, we're strapped, just taking care of what we have. But anyway, I mentioned it to Ed Maloney the next day, and Ed just he stood up and said, really? He said, we got to get that airplane tonight. It's like, well, Ed, we can't afford to put that together. He says, we'll find a way. So anyway, against, I wasn't too convincing to talk him out of it, but God bless Ed for that. And that's what we did. And it turned out it kind of unfolded because as we made a trade for it and we got it, and it just happened to be a retired vice president from Lockheed who lived in Ontario, California, north of Chino, heard that we had it. And he was actually a crew chief on the airplane when MacArthur had it. And so he, through his connections at Lockheed, organized some restoration, and we flew it to Dothan. Well, we sent our guys there for about 5 or 6 months to get it flying. It hadn't flown in almost 20 years. And put a crew together and flew it over to Dothan, and Dothan stripped all the NASA paint off of it and put it in MacArthur's markings, and then it went to Addison, Texas, and they put an interior, replica of the MacArthur interior in it, and then it came to Chino. So we operated it for several air shows, but it just was very evident we could either fly the Connie or fly about 10 or 12 of the other airplanes. You know, that's what it would take to really maintain it correctly. So we ended up taking it out to our museum out in Arizona and put it on display. You know, it's a desert's a good place for an airplane like that, and then right on the highway and all. And then, like Rod had mentioned, our conversations, and we, you know, an aviation museum that we are, you know, we don't have excess funds, but Rod seemed kind of interested, and Rod went and looked at it, and we figured, well, it'd be worth our time, and Rod said he was willing to commit to it. And Rod is the hero in all this airplane, by the way. We did the work, but Rod was the one who stuck it out. You imagine funding a restoration shop for 8 years doing a Constellation, and it's you know, we went through the whole airplane. We, you know, rewired it. Well, we took everything out of it first. You know, we had the outer wings off, we had the landing gear out of it, we had all the engines off, and we went through an 8-year process getting it all back together, and real happy with where we are right now. So we're anxious to get it here so you can all see it.
Well, it's certainly from the pictures. I know everyone is really looking forward to seeing it because it is beautiful. So, Stuart, you have the pleasure of flying it. So tell us a little bit. I know you fly a lot of airplanes. So how does the Bataan compare?
Well,
or does it?
I flew a lot of 4-engine stuff hauling freight early in my life, and but I never had a hold of a Connie, and it is amazing what that airplane will do. It really will get on down the road. It runs fast. It's a little bit heavy to fly, but that's hydraulics from the 40s, you know. That's the way it was.
I believe the airplane, speaking of fast, I believe it set a few speed records in its day, and it really is ahead of its time as far as when it was designed and when it was used.
Yeah, this thing, if you fill it up, you can run 20 hours on it.
I don't think we don't sign me up, right?
And you really don't want to fill it up.
No,
you don't want to pay that bill.
No, I don't want to pay that bill either. You know, I don't know that anybody would. So, Rod, tell me. I mean, I know you're disappointed the airplane is not here today, but it will be here tomorrow. They had a little hiccup. I think Bernie called that a hiccup earlier today in one of their airplanes. So you do have hiccups with these old airplanes. So you have to be extremely proud that this project has come to fruition.
Well, thank you. It's not complete yet. As mentioned in the video, we don't have a complete interior, but as soon as the interior gets finished, it should be a really, really nice airplane. It is already. And proof of that it does fly, a video. So, so we've got, first of all, I'm not the hero. These guys that worked 8.5 years, we worked 8 months just to get it airworthy, to fly it from Arizona to Chino. And those guys were super dedicated every day working on this airplane. Got it to Chino, and then 8 years later, June 20th, we finally got to fly it for the first time. I was in a chase plane, and a lot of those videos were from that day. But I'm very proud of mainly the team that's put this all together, and them sticking with it, because there were some hard times, especially during COVID. Couldn't get parts, couldn't get people. You know, it was just very tough, and it went right through COVID. Steve did all he could to just keep it running, you know. So I want to thank them.
Well, yeah,
and
you
his
know,
guys.
we should all, you know, any of us who fly airplanes, we don't recognize the crew chiefs and the maintenance people often enough, but they're the guys that keep us going. And of course, Steve does all of it with his team. How many people do you have working there in Chino, or do you know?
It goes. We always have around 10 to 14, kind of, right? But we had at times we had 14 people working on this. You could imagine. when you drill skins off and you're removing parts and cleaning parts and looking for parts, and it really goes on and on and on. Vintage radials, excuse me. Mike Nixon did the engines for us, and they're a hybrid engine. They used the power case and nose case off of the latest turbo compounded 3350 and put it on the early blower so it all fit in the same cowling and the same engine mount. And it just have a lot of experience through the years, and we found ways to make it happen. We modified the electrical system. You can imagine the 1940s, 50s electrical system. There were wires, 1,000 pounds of wires going through that thing, because it was pressurized and heated and air conditioned and of that era. And we made it more like a warbird. We wanted to make it as simple as we could so we can maintain it. So we're real proud of what we've done, and when you see it, you'll agree it's a really, really nice, detailed airplane. And another thing too, we got to match the rest of Rod's airplanes. When Rod, every one of Rod's planes is a gem, and we just want to make sure that we keep that.
Well, there's
for Rod.
Well, you're right. You have a high standard here with the Lewis collection to live up to. So, if I understood you correctly, these engines are for this airplane. They are specific to this constellation.
Yeah, but they're the parts that are available, and it's not a major change in any way. We use the reduced power settings that were assigned to that earlier engine. It's still a 2,500 horsepower engine, but the parts are a 3,500 horsepower engine. So they're the very latest evolution of that right cyclone 3350. And Vintage Radials has the largest inventory of that. Part of our deal with him is he would use as many new parts as he could, and most of the engines have all new, cranks, rods, cylinders, and cases. They're like new stuff. It really is, and it's really clean. It doesn't drip much oil, and we're used to working with 3350s on Sky Raiders that are always oily and spitting everywhere. You see in the video there, when it starts up, it looks kind of like it just spits smoke out. It doesn't even spit oil out. We're really impressed with it. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. As you say, radials, if it has any oil in it, you're going to see some of that oil coming out.
50-gallon oil.
You better
tanks.
see some out. Better see some come out.
It better, yes. Yeah. Okay, Stu, tell us again your impression of the engines, the operation of the airplane. So, what's different about operating this airplane, say, than a single-engine airplane with this basic same engine?
Well, we've got 4 of them to take care of.
Yeah, all right.
And it takes 3 people to fly this airplane, a pilot, co-pilot, and then you've got an engineer. And the engineer basically operates everything. You start and initiate what we're doing, like takeoff power, and he sets it. And anything you want and you need, you just tell the engineer, and they'll do it. So it's really, you got to get coordinated. Everybody's got to work together on this thing.
Well, so it's very important. You call for the power, and the engineer
call for what you want, and he will give it to you.
So is your engineer? No, I'm sure your engineer is still over with the airplane, probably.
Yeah, he's still with the airplane.
So we can say thank you to him because he's probably the most important part of this.
They're working real hard.
Yeah. That's really good. Steve, would you make a shout out to anyone else here in the audience or any of your crew who made this possible? What was a high point and a low point in this 8-year restoration?
Well, when you say a high point, well, when Stu and I shoved the throttles up for takeoff, and we both looked at each other. Boy, this thing goes. It hit 100 knots and 1,500 feet. We were kind of okay. Let's go. It was really surprising, but we were 50,000 pounds below gross weight, so that's part of it. But that was probably the high point of the whole thing coming together, and we finally flying the airplane. And like Rod said, the low point during the COVID years, everybody's struggling, and we were down about it, but we all stuck with it, and we had so much enthusiasm with the people that we were doing business with. Everybody's excited about being involved with the Constellation. So.
Wow. Sure, yeah. And it is gorgeous. So, who polished this airplane?
There was a company that was hired to do it, and they polished. There was 9 people on it for 8 weeks, and it was done there at Chino, and they made a big giant mess. It was just that fuzz going everywhere. But and they were every day black face, you know, from all the polish. But they were smiling, you know. Everybody loved working on it. It really did.
Well, yeah, that's a big. I mean, you can polish a prop and be worn out, you know, if you're one individual. So I can see where you hire somebody.
Yeah, when Rod came up with a paint job, he's got polish, ooh. But I'm glad he did, because it really makes the airplane. It's beautiful.
Okay, Rod, tell us. I mean, we covered a lot of the history of the airplane in the video, but tell us what part of the history means the most to you, or led you to make sure you replicated the MacArthur years.
I think just basically that it was MacArthur's kind of office in the sky, you know, and it flew to many different important areas of the world, and I think I just wanted to make sure that we were representing MacArthur properly, and just wanted it just like it was, or better. So.
Well, and that's what, you know, we do here in Warbirds in Review. It's history, heritage, and the heroes. Yeah. And you certainly helped us on many occasions to present that and record this for generations to come, so that they'll know what these airplanes did and what they meant. And so, okay, so tell me a little bit about this airplane while we have it sitting here. We don't want to just ignore it. I mean, it's pretty nice too. You know?
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's one of the first Warbirds that I bought. I think I had to buy this to get a Bearcat. So I bought a Dash 1 Bearcat with this, probably in, that was 20 years ago. So I'd always wanted a Corsair, always wanted a Bearcat, so the package deal was just perfect.
Perfect. So what was your first Warbird?
First Warbird was actually a T-28C. And I flew that for many years, bought that in 1994, and brought it to Oshkosh, did some work on it, brought it to Oshkosh, and it won best T-28 in 1995. And then my second Warbird was a Whirlaway to get some tailwheel time. And that was a beautiful airplane. George Baker out of Florida built that one. And just loved flying that. And then kind of my next one was an NA-50, and then I guess the following was a Mustang. Then I finally got to a Mustang. So.
Okay, Stuart, what was the first Warbird, or what was the first airplane that you flew at what age?
I went to the airport when I was 16 because I had to have a job. I couldn't put gas in my car, and I never left. I just stayed there, and I worked there doing the line and fueling airplanes, and learned how to fly, and just never went up, you know, never stopped.
You never grew up.
Never grew up.
Never grew up. That's a good thing.
Don't want to.
Yeah, Steve, you know, we've heard over the years the Chino boys, or the Ed Maloney guys. Tell me a little bit about the history of Chino and Ed Maloney and you guys that worked as line boys, I understand, out there.
Well, I actually started way before that. We were just, you know, excuse me, when I was in second grade, when the nun left I tell everybody, when the nun leaves, right, you go in the chalkboard, you start drawing airplanes, right? But there was a kid on the third row over from me that could draw better airplanes than I could. And that was Jim Maloney. That was Ed's son and my wife's father. So, and in a young age, I just had the opportunity. Ed opened the door for Jim and I to, you know, be part of the museum. And you know, when you're 8 or 9 years old and hanging around the museum, all you're doing is, you know, causing problems for the people that are serious about it. But you grow up and a lot of great mentors. I actually got a late start flying. I was 15 the first time I ever left in an airplane, ever flew in an airplane, but like 3-4 years later, I'm flying a Mustang. So, and the first time I came to Oshkosh was 50 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I brought P-51 here, Leroy Penhalow's Mustang, and then Jim was flying the museum's Hellcat. So.
Oh, no, I'm not going to count.
73, 1973.
1970. Well, That's pretty impressive. And you've been here a lot of the
probably
years.
majority of the times, yeah.
Majority of the times. Well,
first time I ever got paid to fly an airplane, I got flying an F-86 for Bob Hoover in 1974. I brought an F-86er. Yeah, that white one with the red stripe. If you ever see an old picture with a kid that working on it, that was me.
all right. Well, Bob Hoover was a mentor for a lot of people and had a lot of good words of wisdom. And it was really neat to know some of these people. And that's what we're glad we've preserved, their history and their stories here. And now we carry on with the airplanes. And tomorrow you have to see a lot of the Corsairs out here. I asked Rod earlier. I don't know. The question was kind of like, why is the Corsair here? And he said, because you asked me to bring it. So okay. So what can we look for next year, Rod? I don't know how you top a Constellation.
Well, next year we'll have a full-blown completed Connie. First of all.
Yeah, with interior.
Yeah, with an interior in it, with 24 seats actually. So, I don't know. Depends on what you're doing next year and what you need.
That's what I asked for. I have to be careful what you ask for here. Okay, so this is going to be a shorter than normal Warbirds in Review because it is the afternoon, and they're going to start the night show here in just a little while. But would you guys be open to offering it out for questions if we have anybody who has a question out there?
Sure.
We take this. I don't know if I have my mic handlers yet, but maybe if you raise your hand, I can walk over and there you go, a close one. That's good. Okay.
Is there a time for it to arrive tomorrow?
Is there a time for it to arrive tomorrow?
Hopefully, it's going to be in the morning. We're waiting and we're coordinating this with the people where the aircraft is now, but it's up and. We're going to get over there as quick as we can to get it back here.
Okay, this gentleman.
I'm a young warbird buff. I love it. And how do you recommend a young person get into warbirds?
Steve, you're probably the one.
You got to make yourself available, and you start at the bottom. I mean, you meet people and offer to help, and find somebody you're comfortable with, some group you're comfortable with. It's there's a lot of great people right here in this audience too. You could probably make a nuisance of yourself and get in somehow.
Okay.
Is Mike live? Okay. Yes, I was going to ask that in the movie The Aviator, they happened to have the Connie and they were talking about having the berths. And so I wanted to know, is it going to be buttons or snaps?
Don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, and while we're waiting for the next question, I think we recognize Steve. In the morning, we're going to have Adam Makos here for Devotion with the Corsairs, and Steve had a lot to do with the Devotion movie. Tell us, are you planning a movie with a Constellation with the Bataan, you think? Or let's write a script, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should.
Yeah, maybe we should. Let's do it. Hey, you haven't done that yet, have you? Doing movies?
No, it's not for me.
Yeah. No, Devotion is a great project. We got a phone call, and Fred Smith from FedEx wanted to come out and talk about Devotion with his two daughters. They have a production company called Black Label. And so Fred shows up with his two daughters. I mean, they're a regular company, but anyway, he wanted to talk about doing this movie. He says it's a great book, and my wife Karen had read the book, and she says she was so excited about it because it's a best-selling book, and it's a great story. Funny part, we talked a little bit in the office, and then started. I took Fred and the people for a tour, and I went to our first hangar and talked about the airplanes. And Fred Smith, everybody knows who he is, right? FedEx. He's the fellow that started FedEx. Anyway, he looked out there, and we have an OV-1 in the corner outside. Hey, I used to work on those things. Anyway, for the next 45 minutes, he gave the tour at the museum. He knew every airplane we had. I couldn't believe it. He was just talk. Quite a personality. But a year later, Kevin LaRosa Jr., who you probably met, who's a young aerial director now, and an outstanding person and very accomplished aviator as well. He was assigned as aerial coordinator on the show, and so we sat down and figured out you know, first of all, what's the budget? It could go on and on. Yeah, you start with several people that are here. We've even talked to them about using our airplanes, but then of course they narrow it down. But we ended up with 3 Corsairs that we used for the whole show. We started in Wenatchee, Washington, Korea. Did a lot of flying there. We were there at the airport for Wenatchee. I think we were there for about 5 weeks, I think. Some days it was snowing, couldn't do it. Some days it was a nice day, or we just bared down and did it. And we had the Corsairs and had a Sky Raider from Ericsson. So we had Ericsson's Corsair, Ericsson Sky Raider. We had our museum F4U1, Dan Freakin's F4U4. And then we brought our MiG-15 up there too to do some scenes. And then from there we went to Pasco, Washington, and did all that stuff. If you watch the movie around the river and the lake, did it there. And then we took a break for a little while and got the Bearcats and Rod Sea Fury. And we went to Savannah with the Corsairs, and we based out of Savannah. And we set up Rod Sea Fury. He has a 2-place Sea Fury. Took the instrument panel out of the back and painted the tail blue, and we put the actors in the back of the Sea Fury, and John Maloney and I did the Bearcat scenes. If you see the movie, some of the best Bearcat stuff you'll see. Anyway, we did so much stuff, and of course they only used 5 minutes, but we had a ball. When you're doing a movie, you get to do stuff that's way, kind of usually illegal, but you got a waiver to do. But buzzing the beach and looping and rolling and formation rolls and stuff like that. They used a few little things, but it was a real great experience, and it was great income for the museum, and all our guys were working on it. It was a great show, and Rod let us take some vacation away from the Connie for a couple months. That was a big deal, but it was a good movie, and unfortunately it has a really sad ending, but we're real proud of it.
Well, I think we can all be proud of the integrity of the people like Jesse Brown and Tom Hudner, who are veterans and fly for their buddies. That's what Bud Anderson says. I was flying for my buddies, and a lot of them didn't come home. So to our veterans, we owe a great debt, and to you guys. And I wanted to bring that in for the interaction and the connections of all the Warbird people. I see the Warbird people out here who also operate these airplanes. It's a very close-knit community, and everybody is. Warbirds is a little different because we are here to showcase the airplanes in tribute to all the people who served. And I know we have oh, do I have to go to that question now? Mr. Roush has a question. I'm sorry, you're trumped. Mr. Roush.
I want to make a statement about the museum, my first contact with it. I started drag racing nationally in '76, and the first time I hit the West Coast, I was at Pomona, and they had the Hellcat on display at the grandstands, which was piqued my interest. And I went looking for the museum after practice one day, and I went found Chino. And the B-17 was outside. And do you still have the same B-17?
Same one, yeah.
I asked if I could go through it, and the person I was talking to, whose name I never knew, said I could, but I had to leave a $5 contribution for the museum. So I got my $5 down, and he opened up the B-17, and I went through it for about 30 minutes. And really enjoyed my first trip to California, my first visit to an aircraft museum, and my first exposure to Chino. Thanks, guys. You have a lot of people that come to your community first and wind up in your museum, and if you're still doing what you did in those days, you're making a hits with the people that are impressed by it.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, these museums throughout the country are just so valuable. I see Ron Fagan sitting right there. They have an amazing museum in Granite Falls, as do many of the people here have the aircraft in the museums. And the question there, Mary, I think you have a gentleman that would like to ask a question.
Yes, I have one question. Connie, I think, knows where I'm going to go with this, but and this is directed primarily to Rod, I think, and it's not so much as a question as an observation. And we talked of the mission of the C-121, and the Navy flew it also, of course. And I was privy to watching the film and when it was retired, etc. And I was kind of surprised when they said in 1966, I think it was retired from the inventory. And I looked at Connie and I said, well, I said, there's another variant out there that flew a lot longer than that. In fact, in the Navy, it truly flew longer than that. But I was stationed in Keflavik Naval Air Station in Iceland, and I was flying Phantoms at the time. And for early warning, what do I see sitting on the ramp but a 121? Of course, it was a little bit different. It had an EC before it, and it had the hump on the back, and it had the dish on the bottom. And that was our early warning. And that was like 1978, I do believe. And a lot of people here don't probably realize that that is truly a warbird version. And it was utilized a great deal in Vietnam also, again, for early warning. And of course, you know, it was replaced by AWACS, and the Navy had some E2s that were used also. But I think it's important to note that, yeah, that truly is a warbird variant, and really it helped me as a Phantom guy. My radar would only look so far, you know. And then their call sign was Adola. The Adola guys would start talking to us, and they go, "Hey," and we were intercepting Bear bombers at the time, and here are these Bear bombers way out there, and they knew it. We didn't, you know. They got us close, and we said, "Okay, we got it now," and off we went. But yeah, I thank you also for the restoration, for bringing it to note. But I think it is also important that people realize that, hey, this thing with a great big hump on the back and a dish on the bottom really helped out a lot of us fighter pilots all the way through about 1978, I want to say.
Well, that's great to know. Thank you.
And your airplane, it served in Vietnam with transporting people who were a very important part of that. So Rod, did I have another question? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, young man up top.
First, I just want to say thank you to everyone here and everyone that's not here for bringing the Constellation. That's always been one of those iconic, legendary aircraft that I never thought I'd get a chance to see fly, and looks like tomorrow's going to be that day. So sorry if I sound like a kid in the candy store, because that's exactly what I am. But to piggyback off the first question, as far as leaving during one of the air shows, is that still planned for Friday, or you're doing Saturday, or is that kind of fluid right now? Because I'm leaving Sunday, so I was hoping to catch it on one of those 2 days.
Do you still think, are you leaving Friday, or do you know?
Excuse me.
Rod can tell you that.
Probably, since we're arriving so late, we're thinking about Saturday departure.
Actually, we're looking for donations to fill it up with fuel.
Exactly.
So, no, I'm kidding.
We'll stay a lot longer.
I'm totally kidding. So along those lines, how much fuel does this airplane hold? I'm talking gallons, not dollars in today's dollars.
5,965 gallons.
I'm sorry, I stepped on you. Say that.
About $75,000 worth. No, it's 5,900 gallons, yeah.
Yeah, 6,000 gallons.
And you're burning how much per hour?
Well, it depends on where the throttles are, but flying here we were 100 gallons an hour.
100 gallons an hour.
1,330 horsepower cruise, and it was indicating 250 knots across the ground.
Yeah, we were running 260 sometimes across the ground. Yeah. We were burning 400 to 420 an hour.
Yeah, total, all four.
Total.
All four, yeah. Well, it's good to have all four. Not absolutely necessary, but it's good to burn 400 gallons an hour.
Got 50-gallon oil tanks, too, so it can stay up. Yeah.
Actually, I've seen a video where they've shut down 3 engines, and it'll fly on 1 engine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in YouTube. Arthur Godfrey is talking about Super Connie, the most safest airliner in the world, and he goes, "Watch this." It's like, okay, here it comes.
I hate it when they say, "Watch this."
Yeah, I know. It's like,
Well, I guarantee you they didn't have very much fuel on board.
Yeah, I guarantee you.
They
probably did it right over Edwards Air Force Base, too.
Yeah, they had places to land if they needed to. So, Rod, any closing comments?
I just want to thank the crew, the guys that aren't here. That was a good point. They're obviously working the hardest. We're over here kind of relaxing for the day anyway. So, but we'll get right back over there in the morning and join them. I want to thank them. Thank you for inviting us and having us here. And you guys have anything to add?
Just like I say, we got some famous people in the audience, and I want to thank you for all you guys do, and thanks for
sure. Yeah.
And we're going to get the Connie here tomorrow.
Yeah. And Stuart, as the pilot, is there anything I've missed that you think people would be interested in knowing about the airplane?
They just need to come look at this thing.
Yeah.
It's really impressive. It is really impressive. If you like airplanes and you don't like the Connie, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who wouldn't like a Connie?
Yeah,
that's right.
You led me into that. That was not planned. Guys, Rod, Steve, Stu, thank you. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, it's been my honor, and I thank you for all of you being here late afternoon looking into the sun. But thank you guys so much. This is going to be really special to see you come in tomorrow. You have to let us know what time you're coming, okay?
Okay, one more thing. I want to thank my wife for letting me do
Karen.
this. Thanks, honey.
Karen.
She's always patting me on the back. As long as I come home happy, she's happy.
Yeah, it was really her dad that's responsible
Absolutely.
for most
Right.
of this, right?
Yeah.
So
Aviation wives are really understanding.
Well, the first time we left the Chino Pattern and we were buzzed Santa Maria Airport. I don't see Chris. He was here a minute ago. But on the way back, it just dawned on me. I slapped myself in the face because I got a tear in my eye thinking about Ed because, I almost argued with him. We don't need this thing, It's like, but here we go. Thanks, Ed. He knew better than me for sure.
He knew more than you did.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yes. Well, to all the crew chiefs and the wives, and I often think, of course, I fly airplanes, so I'm just a little odd here myself. But for the women who support what our passion is, and they don't always know all the terms that you're throwing out there and the enthusiasm that you get to go fly an airplane. Those ladies are very special. And so my hat's off to all of you. And April's up there also. So thank you. And gentlemen, we'll see you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Thank you.